to mimic what you said. How could a good God do this? There's no such thing.
Yeah, like,
No matter what good there is, there still is no good in the world.
well, why does God allow it, is what you're saying? Why does God allow
That's
bad things
exactly
to happen?
Mm-hmm. Okay, but let me move you to a different question. So if you've ever met somebody who does not believe in God, but does believe in social justice, where is their belief in social justice coming from? What would they say? Logic?
Yeah, logic, but I've, from several different people I've gotten, they credit themselves.
Okay.
So I don't need to believe in a higher power or God. I don't need God to tell me what's right and wrong. I already know.
I already know. Okay.
So that's the answer I've
Yeah,
given.
I've heard that too.
They credit themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alan?
If we had never become sentient or aware, we wouldn't have free will and there'd be no sin. But we do have free will.
Mm-hmm.
And so, who gave us free will?
God.
Yeah. And if he gave us free will, then he wanted us to make a decision. Which way you want to go? It's all our choice.
And there is a lot attached to that, isn't there?
Huh?
If he gave us free will.
I don't know how we got here, whether God made us or whether we evolved. I don't know. All I know is that God had his hand.
So Alan, let me ask you this. What would you say to a person who says that they don't believe in God, but they believe in justice? What would you say when they gave you an answer for it? I mean, or let me ask you, I think that was a lousy question.
Agreed.
What do people say? What have you heard people say who, when you ask them why they believe in social justice but don't believe in God, what do they say?
We don't know the answer to that.
Well, my stepmother is that person,
Okay.
and she has a very interesting, it's not a complete answer, but it kind of goes back to his argument here, which is, as I read this, I went, oh, goodness gracious, this would be a different conversation to have with her. She is very much about human rights and social justice, and in fact, so much so that it's always an interesting space over the holidays. And at the same time, will tell you that she doesn't believe in God because she sees too much injustice in the world. So she doesn't think back, and this is why this helps me personally, to why does she think there's injustice?
Yeah.
Right? And but she's very vehement in that space. In that spot where those two things come together, she's very clear that human rights and social justice are incredibly important. And because they're not complete, then if God would have fixed that if that's what God was all about.
Okay. Yeah. Randy?
I think part of it is a matter of convenience, though, because I have some friends too that are atheists, but when something life-threatening happens, like their mother, father,
Yes.
a sibling or something is on their deathbed, or they develop cancer, they get that diagnosis when they're in the doctor's office. All of a sudden, I think it's always there, that fiber that God is real, even for the atheist that says it's not, it's there.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get your what you know what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
It doesn't just poof out of thin air.
Yeah.
But that moral decision is made by a life-changing event that some people have that awakening and come to Jesus kind of thing. And then or other people all through their life until they get that come to Jesus event will claim they're an atheist or agnostic or Satanist or whatever.
Right.
But when they have that event that happens, it's there.
They lose their arrogance.
Yeah. There is an arrogance about atheism. Yeah. And
There's also a feeling of not deserving.
of not deserving.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that connects with fear and anger too.
Huh. So Aaron, would you say a few more words about that?
My father, I had a conversation with my father, and at first he said he doesn't believe, but then when I had a more elaborate conversation with him, he says, I just don't think it's a dirt. So,
Oh.
for whatever reasons, he saw himself as that.
Okay, so he couldn't move to the place of believing because he felt like it was, he hadn't earned it. Yeah,
That's very true, because
I've heard that before.
before I even became, I guess a believer or owned my faith, I mean, I grew up in the Catholic Church, but I believed in God,
Mm.
but I believed that God was for those good people.
Oh, sure.
And, so, because I always, and to my friends, you have said, well, I can choose right, I can choose or make the difference between right and wrong without God, without someone telling me, I know the difference between that. And I always tell them, well, then, you're a better person than I am, because up to my own devices,
Mm.
I always chose the wrong.
Yeah.
I always chose,
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I always chose what was wrong. And
Mm.
so, which also, then I went, well, I don't deserve, because I made those wrong choices, I don't deserve the grace that they said
Mm.
that God
Mm.
gives.
Alan, I'm going to come to you in just a moment, but Chris, I just wanted to tell you that I've changed your name to Randy.
That's fine. The eye contact told me that it was okay. It was fine. They look alike.
I don't care that they named you Chris. Your name is Randy. Okay. Okay, Alan.
If you've ever studied the periodic table, these atheists state that all this matter just jumped into existence in almost 100 different atomic configurations. And that there was no intelligence behind it. I mean, that is the epitome of arrogance.
Mm.
Yes.
And that's what he called the materialist point of view last week. Yeah.
Well, and years ago, I was at a can care presentation. Most of you know what that is. It's about cancer stuff. And the woman who was going to talk had participated in the first mapping of the genome here in Houston. And she's a physician. And she was raised in an Islamic family. And oh no, that's not right. That's another person. Anyway, she told the story about how as she mapped this genome, she had been an atheist or a non-believer to a certain extent. But as a consequence of that process, she became a believer.
Wow.
Because it was too perfect.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, I can tell that story and still get goosebumps
Mhm.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
But she went into that from a very clinical point of view,
Mm-hmm.
and as a consequence of that experience, changed what she believed.
Amazing. That connects with what Jim had said last week about order, I think. That there's such an order, and the more you study, the more you see this order, the more convincing it is that there's something behind it. And Jim?
Let me modify that by saying water, of course, we're 70% water.
Oh, and how is your water today, by the
I haven't really had a problem that way. I had other problems. With every good side of water, there's a bad side. It seems like all of these perfect things that are made, and we have no control over them. We can build a dam as they did in California. And somebody cheated on the spillway, I think. The water can be bad. But water, let me make a very simple example. And that is, what would you think if you got some iced tea and the ice all fell to the bottom of the glass?
There's something in the water.
It was in the heavy water.
How do you think the fish would feel?
How the what?
How would the fish feel?
Mm.
Jim.
Well, you know,
Let me finish, would you please?
all right, well, go ahead.
But water has a bad side. People have a bad side. Tables have a bad side. Sometimes they get in my way. There's always seems to be a bad with the good. And water is no exception. But it has some marvelous characteristics. The polar bears couldn't exist without it, without ice. And yet ice, if this building got in a puddle of ice, it would be crushed as the building or the ice expanded. It has a characteristic where you can, if we put in a mechanical pump, we can pump it up to about 20 feet, 27 feet. But yet it goes to the top of every one of these trees out here that's 100 feet tall.
That song that talk about, come to the water, stand by my side, I know you're thirsty, you won't be denied.
But that's just one example of taking the good with the bad. And we can cite many other examples of the decision to drop the atomic bomb, or the decision to make it. Converting mass to energy instantaneously. Is that good or bad? Well, if you lived in Hiroshima, you probably might think it was a little bit bad. But we thought it was good at the time. I can remember, so I'm not that old. But I can